The United States, the land of opportunity. The so-called American dream, remember? Yeah, but these days around here, it looks more like the graveyard of that dream. The streets stink, bodies lying on the ground. People dragging themselves around with no legs, no direction, no soul. Living zombies, in broad daylight, right on the sidewalk. And what I'm about to show you now is the other reality of Philadelphia. The one the tour guides don't show and the politicians pretend doesn't exist. 1. The other side of Philadelphia. You've heard of Philadelphia, right? It's not just another American city, it's literally the birthplace of the nation. It was in Independence Hall that the leaders of the 13 colonies signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And it was in that same building that, in 1787, the United States Constitution was born. Nearby is the Liberty Bell, the bell of freedom, which rang to call people to hear, for the first time, the announcement of a new country. The bell is cracked, but it's still standing, full of meaning. And before Washington, D.C. even existed, Philadelphia was the first capital of the United States from 1790 to 1800. The most famous symbol of the city? Rocky Balboa, the fictional boxer who came from nothing and conquered everything. He took a beating, fell down, but always got back up. The steps where he trained have become a tourist attraction. Everyone runs up, raises their arms, and celebrates. And there's another name that also left its mark on the city. Will Smith. Remember the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? That's right. In the opening, he sings, "In West Philadelphia, born and raised." I was born and raised in West Philadelphia. And even in the song, he said things that were already dangerous. And that was back in the 90s. Today, it's gotten worse. A lot worse. The so-called city of brotherly love. The name comes from ancient Greek, philos meaning love, plus adelphos, brother. In other words, love between brothers. Beautiful, right? At least on paper. Don't get me wrong. Philadelphia is still beautiful with its museums, its historic landmarks, its spotless postcards. But there's a side of the city, a side that tour guides don't show you. A place the official camera avoids. A part where the word brotherhood means nothing. Silent streets, destroyed houses, bodies left behind, and an atmosphere of total abandonment. So heavy that the residents themselves created a ritual called the Path of the Dead. Something I'm going to tell you about next, because the same city that saw the birth of the American dream also carries its worst nightmare. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. 2. The most feared neighborhood in Philadelphia. There are places in the world where you walk in with your body, but it's your soul that starts screaming first. And you ask yourself, what the hell happened here? The moment I set foot in Kensington, the smell already hit me like a slap. It's as if the air carries the weight of 1,000 tragic stories that nobody wants to hear. Every step, a knot in your stomach. The streets are wide, but everything feels squeezed in. People lying on the ground, some dragging themselves, others frozen in time, with empty eyes, like their bodies are still here but their minds left a long time ago. And the worst part is, no one is hiding anything. Drugs are injected right there, on the sidewalk, under the sunlight. Syringes on the ground, bleeding arms, people passing out in the middle of the street. It looks like a scene from an apocalypse movie, but it's just another ordinary day in this Philadelphia neighborhood. The name of the place is beautiful, Kensington, but walking here is like stepping into an episode of The Walking Dead without the fake zombies. Here, they're real. They breathe, they stumble, they bleed. and nobody does anything. And then you stop and think, how does this exist in the United States? Just a couple of steps from here, you reach historic buildings. 2 hours by car and you're in Washington, D.C. 2 more and you've already arrived in New York. 2 icons of the so-called American dream. But here, it's the American nightmare, alive, filthy, screaming for help. Police drive by and just watch. No one stops, no one interferes. Some residents say that the police chief himself ordered them not to get involved. The order is clear, do not interfere. There aren't enough people, they say. It's not worth it, they whisper. And me? I keep walking, camera in hand and my heart racing. Because every corner seems to ask, are you sure you want to keep going? 3. The land of the Trank. Have you ever heard of the Trank? It's the affectionate nickname for death when it hasn't finished the job yet. This drug is a mix of fentanyl, already 50 times stronger than heroin, with xylazine, a horse tranquilizer. That's right, for horses, veterinary use. Made to sedate a 500-kilo animal. And now it's being injected into humans with trembling arms and souls already begging for mercy. The effects are bizarre. It's not just the addiction, it's the rotting of the body in real time. Wounds that turn into holes, holes that turn into rotten flesh, and rotten flesh that often ends in amputation. I saw with my own eyes a guy lying there, unconscious, his leg completely purple, the tissue rotting, blood leaking onto the hot asphalt. No one helped. No ambulance, no hospital, no NGO, not even the police. And do you know how much this trip to hell costs? It costs $3, sometimes $5, and it takes you straight to hell. It lasts an hour, 2 at most. After that comes the desperation, the crash, the withdrawal, the chill in your bones, the pain that makes you want to die, but you don't die, not yet. So he gathers coins, steals, sells his body, does anything for another dose, another hit, another minute of chemical peace. And this, my friend, has become an epidemic. More than 1,400 deaths just in 2023 in Philadelphia. Most of them with a similar profile, young, poor, abandoned. Or better yet, discarded. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just wait to see what happens at the next corner. 4. The stories nobody wants to hear. I always thought I knew what sadness was, but real sadness has a face, a name, a smell, a voice. And she told me, looking me in the eyes, I started with cocaine at 13 and crack at 14. Another said, I used to sell myself for $5 just to get another hit. Man, what I heard there, no filter can handle. This isn't a movie story, it's pure trauma, piled up, fading away. There was a boy who stopped me and said, my mom died of an overdose right in front of me. My brother died. My cousin died. I'm the last one, I don't have any family left. And he was only 20 years old. Another one looked at me, eyes shining with tears. When I use, it's the only time I feel like I'm with my mom again. It's like she's right there by my side. Do you understand what that means? The drug became the only place where he still finds love. They don't use just because they're addicted. They use to escape a ruined childhood, absent parents, abuse, abandonment. One of the heaviest stories was from a girl whose body was covered in scars, but whose eyes were still full of life. I have depression and anxiety. Sometimes I go months feeling okay, but then I fall apart. Then I come back here. I don't know if I'll ever get out. You listen and feel the ground disappear beneath you, because there are no soap opera villains here. There are people. People who were broken too soon and no one put the pieces back together. And while they talk to me, Some of them trembled. Others shouted at ghosts. There was a guy collapsed on the floor, bleeding from his leg, foaming at the mouth, but no one stopped. No one. It's as if the whole city had locked these people in a basement, threw away the key and pretended they never existed. 5. Narcan, the spray that brings the dead back. There was a guy lying on the ground, eyes closed, arm dangling. He looked dead. Someone shouted. Suddenly, everyone ran and I just stood there. The scene was intense, really intense. The guy didn't move, didn't speak, didn't react. That's when a volunteer pulled a small, discreet tube out of his pocket. It looked like a nasal spray, but it was Narcan. Narcan is a spray that saves people from overdoses. You spray it in the nose and the person comes back. Just like that. And that's exactly what happened. The person came back, moved, breathed, opened their eyes. Man, it's unbelievable. A little spray brought someone back to life. This spray is handed out by volunteers, people who are there every day trying to help, because the government gave up a long time ago. There was a woman who gave me a Narcan and said, "Keep this with you. Around here, you never know." And the craziest part, they use this every day, because every day people are dying. But you know what hit me the hardest? A guy looked at me and said, "Narcan saved me, but tomorrow I'm going to use again." He knows it, and he's going to fall again. And maybe there won't be anyone around next time. 6. The empire of the streets and the smell of death. There are streets here in Kensington that you learn not to cross. Not because of potholes or trash, but because they have owners. These streets are controlled by gangs, for example. They walk around with their faces covered, with codes, rules, and a lot of territory at stake. Here, every block is worth money. Every corner can be the scene of a shootout. Everything revolves around drugs. Who sells, who distributes, and who dies trying. There are houses that look abandoned, but inside, drugs are packaged, organized, and distributed. It's a system, an invisible empire that works perfectly because no one has the guts to mess with it. Not the police, not the government, not anyone. And behind all of this, there's addiction, pain, and the smell of death. Yeah, because here everything stinks. It reeks of blood, sweat, feces, open wounds, used syringes. There are no bathrooms. People relieve themselves right in the street. They lie on the ground, rotting right there. I saw naked people, shaking, convulsing, with open wounds all over their bodies. I saw a woman passed out with a syringe in her arm, a man foaming at the mouth on the sidewalk, people standing still for so long that time itself just gave up counting. And the strangest thing is, they're still breathing, but they're not really alive anymore. Kensington reeks, but it's not just the body, not just the clothes, it's the dignity that's already dead. 7. Progressives and their hypocrisy. Have you ever noticed a curious coincidence? The cities in the United States where people drag themselves through the streets, where there are people bleeding on the sidewalks and the air reeks of urine and rotting flesh like something out of The Walking Dead, are all run by the so-called love crowd. The same woke mob obsessed with social justice, always talking about taxing the rich and blaming capitalism for everything. Want an example? I can give you several. Philadelphia, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, New York, Chicago. All of them have been run for years by the famous progressives. You know those people who beat their chests and say, "We care, we're the good guys." Well, that's where things get rough. These governments came up with some, let's say, very modern ideas. Oh, if someone's going to use drugs, at least let them do it hygienically. The result? Free distribution of syringes. Safe-use kits with wipes, gloves, and everything else. And of course, no one can be arrested. Because the poor guy, he just wants to do his drugs in peace. The police walk by and pretend they didn't see anything. The government hands out pamphlets. The activists, they make black and white filtered videos on Instagram saying the system is oppressive. And what happens to the people on the street? They die slowly, rotting away, lying on the ground like a bag of trash, but with rights. And no one can do anything, because according to them, that's freedom. Now tell me, is freedom letting a guy inject fentanyl mixed with horse tranquilizer in front of a school? Is freedom seeing a mother abandoned on the street with worms coming out of her leg and calling that autonomy? And what's even more curious, conservative states also have a drug crisis. Are there overdoses? Yes, there are. But you know what they don't have? Zombies walking down the street at 10 in the morning. People selling their bodies for $3 because over there's still something called law and another called having some shame. But try explaining that to a leftist and they'll say it's all capitalism's fault. The guy sees a neighborhood full of people dying and instead of blaming the weak public policy, he blames the system. It's easy to be virtuous with someone else's chaos, isn't it? Yeah, because sometimes the real hell doesn't have demons, it has people who are invisible, ignored, and lying right there on the sidewalk next to your freedom. Oh, and if you made it this far, comment Philadelphia, just so I know you're one of mine. And while you're at it, send this video to your leftist friend who's always talking about harm reduction and drug legalization. Maybe they'll learn something, right? Check out this video that's popping up on the screen. Thanks, and see you next time.